Good evening from Washington. I'm Doug Blair, subbing in for Larry O'Connor. You know, we're all talking about this debt limit fight. The New York Times, CNN, Fox, everybody's talking about how this debt limit thing is going to possibly destroy the world economy. Well, it's kind of scary, and I don't really understand economics, so I figure that we should get somebody who does. That man is Representative Kevin Hern from the great state of Oklahoma. He represents the 1st District. He's also the chair of the Republican Study Committee. Representative, welcome to the show.
It's great to be with you.
Absolutely. So I guess the first question here is there's all this talk about whether the deal is going to happen or not, or if the deal is going to be exactly what Republicans or Democrats want. Are we going to get a deal in the near future? Do you see that happening?
Well, I do. I mean, if you believe what Janet Yellen says, which she is the Treasury Secretary, and she should have great knowledge of what's going on. So you would certainly believe that it's June 1st. That's what we're moving toward. So we've got the Republicans have done our job since day one. We passed a bill over a month ago. You and I were talking before the show. The Democrats could have made this a non-issue by actually passing this with no Republican support at all in the House back in December when they had the House. They essentially had control of the Senate and they had the White House. So this is clearly a political maneuver by the White House and the Democrats to put pressure on the Republicans. But we've agreed as a body, passed a bill, and waiting for the Senate to pass it on their side.
Absolutely. Well, that is the thing that we keep hearing from the Democrats. It's the House GOP don't want to play ball. That's why they're refusing to pass this particular budget that the president has decided he wants to do. I guess on that note, what are some of the things that the Biden administration is really pushing for that are just non-negotiables? The GOP will say we're not going to get a deal passed if this is included in the budget.
Well, they're wanting to, keep spending on the same trajectory it's been on. They don't want to do that. They don't want people that are able-bodied to have to work for the social safety net programs out there, something that Joe Biden himself supported as a senator, Bill Clinton supported as a president, and over 100 Democrats supported Bill Clinton. Many of those are still in Congress, believe it or not. And now they've forgotten everything that they voted on. When you look at, they don't rescind any of the money for the IRS, the $80 billion for the 87,000 IRS agents. They want to continue. I mean, it's everything. All their agenda. They don't want to move on anything. And the reality is they've not passed a single bill on this issue of raising our debt limit so we pay our debts. And so, Joe Biden is on the precipice of being the first president in American history not to pay debts. We, as Republicans, increase the debt ceiling to pay our debts.
Right. Well, that is the thing, too. I mean, there was this argument for a very long time that the GOP hadn't scraped a budget together. And, of course, the House was able to pass one. And it's the president who is now saying that he's not going to play ball and he doesn't think that this is a reasonable budget. What is something that you think Americans should understand about this process? Because again, like I started off this segment with, there's a lot of doom and gloom speak about how this is going to go down. I think Janet Yellen has said, we only have until this particular date to get it done. All these economists are saying that if this deal doesn't pass, that somehow the world economy is going to tank. Is that really the truth? Are we in that dire strait?
Well, again, you'd have to look at revenues coming in every day, some $150 billion of tax revenues and other revenues coming into the United States Treasury every single day. We do have bills going out. We spend about $100 billion a month more than we take in. So there is a point in time when we can no longer pay our debts. She said on January 19th that date was going to be somewhere in late May, early June. And so June 1st is the date she's used and continues to move it back and forth a little. But we're using that. But also when you look at this, Doug, what's going on is the posturing that the Democrats do not want to put a bill on the floor. When you look at what Schumer said after we passed our bill out of the House, he said the House Republican debt limit bill will never see the light of day in the Senate. Why? Is he afraid? They're acting like eighth graders over there, the Democrat Party, calling names. The president called our bill wacko until he started seeing the polls across America that said over 60% of Americans think we should cut spending.
Right. It does seem very odd to me that in a period of hyperinflation where we're looking at again, when I go out to the store and I want to buy meat, I want to buy eggs, I want to buy milk to, have a nice breakfast or some nice dinner, it's going to cost me so much money. And it seems so strange to me that Democrats want to play these types of political games with the money. On a slightly more kind of in the weeds talk about this, I've been reading that this deal is more of a broad spending outline, and that the House and the Senate are going to get more specific later on with the kind of where the spending goes. I'm curious, Congressman, what's to say that we don't find ourselves in this type of situation a few months from now, where all of a sudden we can't agree on the specifics, and now we have this massive problem where we don't have a debt limit or we don't have a budget?
Well, so the debt limit deal, part of the negotiation is to cap spending and only increase it at 1% a year. We're not saying don't increase spending going forward, but let's reset it to where we were just 8 months ago. And Joe Biden and the Democrats like to think that, make the American people think that we're taking the country back to the 1950s. We're actually just talking about now 9 months ago, prior to the big spending bill last year, and then move forward at 1% a year. But to your point, the debt limit sets the top line number, just as every household in America does, sets the top line number. And out of that, you're going to spend a certain amount of monies for the defense and a certain amount of monies for our veterans and for our health services and our education services. But we have to set the top line first, and then we'll agree through the appropriations process of what each of our 12 appropriation bills will have as part of that whole. But we can't even get into the budgeting process and the appropriations process until we agree on the top line number. And that's what's happening. This debt limit deal is slowing down what we need to do in America, certainly as we build our national defense to compete against China and what's happening in Russia and Iran and North Korea. And so the Democrats are slowing everything down because they haven't done their job in the Senate of passing a bill. Let's come together, negotiate the bill, what's in writing, and then move forward. And the American people get this. Joe Biden and the Democrats are losing the messaging war with the American people. The Republicans have staked a claim on a position of passing a bill, and the Democrats cannot do that. They simply want to sit there and call the Republicans names like wacko and extremists.
Absolutely. Well, Congressman, I think thank you so much for explaining this very complicated topic for me and our viewers. I think we very much appreciate it. On a more political note, we're running a little low on time, but I want to get your impression on Kevin McCarthy. This has been his, I think, probably largest test as the speaker so far. I don't know if a lot of people were under the impression that there was going to be the possibility of getting a bill like this passed, but he managed to do it, I think, quite impressively so. What are your thoughts on Speaker McCarthy's navigation of this particular topic?
Well, it's extraordinarily difficult, right? I mean, when you're talking about such a slim majority, I think you have to give him a lot of props, if you will, for leading us to a place where the Democrats never thought we would get, which is passing a bill where the most conservative members of our conference to the most moderate came together, and we only lost 4 members and passed a bill. The real test as we go forward is what comes out of this. What's the ultimate debt limit bill that we passed just next week, probably, or if you're going to look at June 1st, that is next week. And what do we do to make that happen? And that's what the negotiations are about right now with Patrick McHenry and Garrett Graves and the president's emissaries into that role as well. And it's always hard. This process, this is what the American people don't understand, Doug, is why has this got to be so hard? Why can't the Senate Democrats do their job? They're in the majority. Act like you're in the majority. Pass a bill. Let's come together and settle this.
Absolutely. No, it does seem very frustrating as somebody who's watching from the outside who says, guys, like, I have to deal with this every year. I got to deal with my budget. I got to get this thing done. Why can't we just sit down, hammer out a deal, make this work? And again, the House GOP has done their job. Kevin Hern is one of the members of the GOP who has done that job. He's the Republican from Oklahoma's 1st District and the chair of the Republican Study Committee. Representative, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Well, keep it here on Salem News Channel. O'Connor Tonight is just getting started. See you in a bit.